Hey everyone, my name is Ronak and this is Python programming tutorials right from the scratch. Now, if you want to begin with the Python programming, you will first have to download the Python setup. Go to their official website www.python.org. Go to the download section and here are two versions, Python 3, Python 2. I would recommend you to download Python 3. Download it, install it and we are good to go. It follows a really simple installation. After you have installed it, go to the search and type IDLE. IDLE is the Python shell. Here we will be typing our code. So let's begin with numbers. Now you can input any number you want and you will get its output. So let's type some numbers. As simple as that. Now that we have some numbers, let's move on to some basic mathematical operations. Let's start with the addition. So you can use it for addition. In the same manner we can perform subtraction, multiplication and division too. So let's perform subtraction. And now we perform multiplication. Multiplication is performed using the asterisk sign. We can perform division. For division we use the slash. Now the output we get over here is the quotient. What if we want the output of the remainder? So what we can do over here is we use the modulus operator, that is the percent sign. So type that and the remainder is 1. Now we have seen the division, but we have this decimal thing over here. What if we don't want that decimal? The trick over here is type the slash twice and we get rid of the decimal. Now what if we want to find the power of something? So what if we want to find the power of 8 power to 3? So this is the basic thing we have to do. So 8 multiplied by 8 multiplied by 8, it's 512. In order to find power, the easy way is using two asterisks, and we want it thrice. It's 512. Now let's move on to variables. Now if you are kind of a person who is well versed with any programming language like C, C++ or Java, you must be having a good information about the variables. But if you are a kind of person who has never done programming in his whole life and this is the first tutorial you are watching, variable is a kind of placeholder that stores the value. So it can be a name and you can assign something to it. So what we can do over here is we can assign the numbers to that variable. So let's say a is equal to 5 and that number 5 has been assigned to the a. Now whenever you want to access that number 5, you can type the name of the variable and we have the number over here. In the same manner, what we can do is we can perform operations using these variables. Now let's assign another number to the variable b. Now let's multiply this variable with this a multiplied by b. So what it will do is it will multiply 5 multiplied by 6, which will output 30. And these variables are really important because using these variables we can perform really big operations. Now that we have numbers, we perform some basic mathematical operations. Let's move on to strings. Now what is a string? String consists of alphabets, characters. Now let's say we want to output a string over here. So let's say I love Python. We got an error. It says invalid syntax. The reason is that anything that consists of alphabets or characters should be enclosed within the quotes. That is the rule of the Python. If you enclose something within the quotes, the Python will be able to interpret it. So let's enclose it within double quotes. In the same manner, we can enclose it within single quotes too. As simple as that. Now, when you are about to design a really big massive program, this thing is really not applicable. If you want something to be given as an output on a screen, you need a function known as print. Now if you have done little bit of programming in any other language like Java, C or C++, you might have heard of the print statement. In Java we use system.out.println. In C we use printf. In C++ we use cout. In the same manner in Python we use print followed by round brackets, and whatever you want to print you have to enclose within these round braces. So it can be a string. So let's say I love Python. In the same manner we can assign something to a variable and we can print that variable. Printing is basically we get the output from a program. So let's assign a string I love programming, and now let's say print a and the string has been printed. So what I've done here is I have assigned I love programming string to the variable a and I have printed that variable and we got the output. Now we have learned numbers, some basic mathematical operations, string and print. Now let's move on to list. Now what is a list? List is basically a collection of, it can be anything like numbers, strings, anything. List has many uses. So in order to create a list, you have to enclose the contents of a list within the square brackets. It can be anything, numbers, strings. So let's start with numbers. We got two elements over here, 1 and 23. Now in the same manner we can create a list of strings. A list of strings can be created, but we have to remember the rule. If we want to print out the string, that string should be enclosed within the quotes. So it applies in the list too. So let's output some alphabets and we have the list. Now we can assign some elements of this list. Before that we will have to assign it to a variable so that we can access it. So this is our list. The variable a is holding that list, which consists of elements 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now I will show you how to access individual element from that list. So what if you want to access the number 2 from the list? So type the variable followed by the square braces and in that type the number 2 because you want to access the second element. But we got an error. We got the number 3. The thing with the computer or any programming language is that it basically counts from the 0th element. That is, if we want to access this element, it basically has the position like it starts from 0. This is 1th element, 2nd element, 3rd element. So if we want to access this, we have to say a followed by square braces inside 1. That is the first element, and this is the first element according to the programming languages. This is the 0th element, first, second, third, and so on. Now we get the desired output. Now I will show you what if you want to change this 2 to some another number. Well, we can do that. So type a, because it is in the first position. This 1 is the 0, like I said, and this is 1, and we want to change this value to something else. So type the index of that element equal to, in the square braces, type the any other number you want. Now if you type, like if you call that variable a, the value has been updated. I committed some mistake. Yes, I mistakenly typed the square braces. The actual thing is that a is equal to this and this, and the list has been updated. In the same manner, now what if we want to add some more elements to this list? So what we can do is a now what if we want to add some elements to that list? So a plus, you can type your numbers over here, and the list has been updated. In the same manner, we can create a new list too. So we can say c is equal to a plus 1 5, and call this c, and we have this updated list. The values have been updated in this variable c, which holds this new list. Now we have learned numbers, some basic mathematical operations, strings, the print function, and the list. Now let's move on to something known as dictionary. Now what is a dictionary? Now dictionary is something that holds the index of an element you want to access. The format of the dictionary over here is enclosed within these curly braces, and this is the index and element. This is the basic syntax. In curly braces we have index, we have to put a colon and the element. So if you want to access something, some element from your dictionary, you have to type the name or the number of the index. This is the basic syntax. So let's try it. So let's say 1, and now in this dictionary the element 466 has been assigned to this index value 1. Now let's assign it to a variable so that we can access it. What if we want to add more values? Just type comma and other values. We have the dictionary A. The first index holds the value 455, second 4545, and third so on. Now what if we want to access a specific element from that dictionary? In order to do that, type A followed by the square braces and the name or the number of that index. So if we want to access 4545, we have to type the 2, that is the index of the dictionary, and we have 4545. This dictionary format is basically the JSON format, which is JavaScript object notation, and it is widely used, and the application of this thing is really good with Python, because Python basically interprets the JSON as the dictionary, We will learn it in some future tutorials, but for now we can also do this with strings. So let's do this with string. We can access it, we can assign the elements. So Java, oops, and C. Now what if we want to access the C? So A, square braces, the index of the C is 3, type 3, and we have C over here. Now this is the basic foundation of the Python programming language. In further tutorials we will be covering something known as conditional statements, loops, object oriented functionality of the Python programming language, and so on. But what I want you to do is, as you are watching these tutorials, you type along with it, because if you don't type you won't be able to get it, because these things are really difficult to remember at first. You have to try it yourself, because once you try it you will be able to get a good hold of these basics, and these basics are really important, because if you want to progress further you really need these things. List and dictionaries especially really important. So in next tutorial we will be covering some more things, and we will dive deep into the Python programming language. So till then, goodbye.